The Gothic horror novel Frankenstein explores the story of a scientist who attempts to assume the role of God by creating a living being. What he creates is, in some ways, akin to a golem, a concept also present in Jewish tradition. However, there are distinct differences. For instance, the creature in Frankenstein is described as being made from cadavers and a mixture of body parts, while a golem is said to be formed from clay. Additionally, the means of bringing them to life differ. Frankenstein's creature is animated through scientific methods, whereas a golem is given life through mystical practices. The novel Frankenstein may have been inspired by the rise in the trade of cadavers in Old Europe, which even became a lucrative market. Did the creature draw inspiration from the golem in Jewish folklore? If you've played Diablo, you're likely familiar with the necromancer class, which creates golems from clay, iron, and flesh. Now, let's delve into what a golem is. The word golem in Hebrew translates to shapeless mass or unformed substance. Adam himself was said to have existed as a golem, a lifeless body, before being endowed with life by God. Another legend tells of the prophet Jeremiah creating a golem. A midrash from around 400 CE, written during the Talmudic period, called Bereshit Rabbah, offers an account. God creates the first human, Adam, as a dual-gendered being, with one side male and the other female. He later separates them, forming the back parts of both, which supports the notion that Eve was not created from Adam's rib, but from his side. In this context, the initial Adam, referred to as Adam Harishon, or the first human, was a golem until God breathed life into him. A relatively late midrash, Tehillim, claims that Adam was created on the eve of the Sabbath. According to the account, God conceived of Adam in the first hour, shaped him with the angels in the second, gathered the dust in the third, shaped his limbs in the fourth, and created him as a golem in the fifth. By the sixth hour, Adam was covered with skin, his soul was blown into him in the seventh, and by the eighth hour, he was standing on his feet. Amoraim, Jewish scholars who interpreted teachings, also discussed the creation of golems. For example, a Babylonian rabbi known as Rav, who lived between 280 and 352 CE, was said to have created a golem using sacred powers. He sent the golem to another rabbi, but when the rabbi spoke to it and received no response, he declared, "You were created by one of the members of the group of sages. Return to your dust," effectively deactivating the golem. The origins of these creation myths and beliefs lie in the Talmud and early Kabbalistic ideas. Both Talmudic and Kabbalistic texts suggest that virtuous individuals with esoteric knowledge could use inorganic materials to create artificial humans, thereby imitating God. While some interpret golem legends as symbolic, representing spiritual awakening, others believe such creatures could indeed be created. Medieval Jewish mystics were deeply interested in the concept of creation. One such figure was Abraham Abulafia, born in 1240, who journeyed from Spain to Israel in his 20s and wrote extensively on Kabbalistic subjects. A 13th-century French Jewish text, known as Sefer Hatzada, the Book of Righteousness, also detailed mystical creation methods. Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, inspired numerous works, including writings by the German Rabbi Eleazar, who offered instructions on golem creation. These instructions often began with shaping the golem into a human-like form. To animate the golem, different methods were described. In one approach, the creator would walk or dance around the golem while reciting the Hebrew alphabet and God's secret name. Another variation involved writing the word emet, truth, composed of the letters aleph, mem, and tav, on the golem's forehead, which would bring it to life. To deactivate the golem, the letter aleph could be removed, leaving the word met, dead. Additionally, writing divine names on the golem's arm or placing them in its mouth could grant life. Ultimately, to create and control a living being, inscribing or assigning words or names was deemed essential. In ancient thought systems, naming something was akin to setting rules or establishing laws. Let us now look at Rabbi Eleazar's description of creating a golem. His instructions proceed as follows. After kneading virgin soil from the mountains with pure water, one would first shape the golem's head and torso. Then, using the Hebrew alphabet, each letter would be paired in combinations corresponding to different body parts, creating what is referred to as 220 gates. Next, each consonant in the alphabet would be combined with a vowel, completing the first stage, the preparation of the golem's body. The second stage involved invoking the Tetragrammaton, the divine name of God represented by the letters Yod, He, and Vav, and combining each of these with the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, imbuing the golem with life. One of the most famous golem stories is associated with Rabbi Yehuda Loew ben Bezalel, also known as the Maharal of Prague. This 16th-century Talmud scholar and Jewish mystic lived in the city of Prague, which at the time was part of the Holy Roman Empire under Emperor Rudolf II. Although Rudolf was an educated and cultured ruler, the Jews of Prague often faced oppression. According to legend, Rabbi Loew had a dream in which he was told to create a golem that would destroy all of Israel's enemies. The rabbi shared his vision with his son-in-law, who was born under the sign of fire, and his student, born under the sign of water. Rabbi Loew himself was born under the sign of air, and he believed their elemental balance was essential for the task. The three prepared special soil, and as they circled it, chanting secret Kabbalistic names, the golem's body slowly began to animate, acquiring human-like qualities. Thus, the golem was brought to life. In some versions of the story, a word or amulet was placed on the golem's forehead or mouth to ensure its invisibility. The words used to give it life were often Adam or Emet. The golem, possessing incredible strength, helped Rabbi Loew with physical tasks in his home and synagogue. However, another version of the tale describes a darker turn. In the spring of 1580, during the Easter season, an anti-Semitic priest in Prague incited Christians to act against the Jews. To protect his people, the rabbi created a golem. While it initially succeeded in safeguarding the Jewish community, the golem grew increasingly powerful and uncontrollable over time. It became destructive and began attacking innocent people. Ultimately, Rabbi Loew removed the divine name from the golem, rendering it lifeless. In some versions, the rabbi erased the first letter of the word Emet, truth, leaving Met, dead. The golem collapsed into an inert mass. There were even rumors that the rabbi stored the deactivated golem in the attic of the Old New Synagogue in Prague, and believers claimed it remained there for centuries. However, when the synagogue was eventually fully explored, no golem was found. Golem legends persisted in Jewish folklore, such as the story of Elijah Baal Shem, a Talmud scholar and Kabbalist who was said to possess knowledge of God's sacred names. According to the tale, the golem created by Elijah grew larger each day. Realizing this, Elijah erased a letter from the writing on its forehead, causing the golem to collapse into lifelessness. In one variation of the story, the deactivated golem fell on the rabbi, crushing him to death. While golems are typically depicted as male in most stories and created to help protect the Jewish people, there are also legends of female golems. One tale recounts a man creating a beautiful, silent female golem for sexual purposes. Other stories describe female golems made to serve as cooks and cleaners. Another legend attributes the creation of a female golem to the Jewish poet and philosopher Ibn Gabirol, who was influential in Islamic philosophy. According to one rabbi's interpretation, Ibn Gabirol's creation of a woman led to his denunciation. When people came to his home, he revealed the woman to be an imperfect creation, reducing her to the wood and hinges from which she had been formed. The rabbi remarked that similar traditions were widely discussed, especially in Ashkenazic lands. Golems have inspired artists and writers for centuries, entering visual arts, sculpture, illustrations, and more recently, video and digital media for at least the past 200 years.